Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 143 of NerdPod Generations. As always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson.
Hello, friends and enemies.
Welcome back from your vacation,
Welcome
sir.
home. I'm back.
Yes, you are back.
We went to Connecticut. I went to my first ever Yankee game.
Very nice.
I watched us go down 11-5 by the sixth inning. So it was a fun day.
Yep.
It was one of those games where you leave because it's clearly not going to go your way, and you get in the car and you look and wow, the Orioles scored another run.
See, that's why the White Sox fans don't even go to the games.
I know.
They just know ahead of time it's going to be like that.
But that said, it was a great time.
Nice.
I had a great experience. I got to see some really good friends. And we just had a great time going to the game.
That is
awesome.
awesome.
And then, me and Kelly just took a nice little vacation, which was basically just we're going to lay low. Nobody can know where we are. And we're just going to have the AC cranked and hang out with the dogs in a hotel room.
Nice.
And it was excellent.
That sounds fantastic.
It was really
Especially
good.
as hot and miserable as
This is what I'm saying. We picked the right week to do it.
So, folks, NerdPod Generations, episode 143. I know we did miss it last week, and we are potentially going to be missing next week because I'm going away on vacation.
Yeah, it's Steve's turn to go on vacation.
At least we're going to have, minimally, we might do a second episode this week, but right now, at least we're going to have this episode where we're finally going to touch on the Acolyte, which is the big thing now that everyone can't stop talking about.
It's the big thing that's making the internet mad.
Yes.
I do love... We're not going to go into it, but I do love that Madam Web is getting big views on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what, guys?
I know. It's, you know what, though? One of the largest streaming movies ever was the Something Six. What was the Adam Sandler Western?
Oh, the Pitiful Six or whatever
or something
it
like
was.
that. And that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And it was one of the highest watched movies
The
ever.
Degenerate Seven.
It's just bad.
Yeah.
It's just really bad. But anyways, folks, so NerdPod Generations 143, please go back and listen to our back catalog if this is your first time listening to us. Also, please go to youtube.com, go to nerdpodgen, nerdpodgen.com. There are links to YouTube, links to Spotify, links to Al's stuff, links to my stuff, links to everywhere. So please go, and if you are listening to this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you do go to YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave up likes. We got a lot of content, folks.
I'm just saying.
Content out our ears.
If I had to sit through that goddamn movie, the least people could do is not watch it afterwards. Like, if I had to sit through all of Madam Web, the least the internet could do is take our word for it.
Well, they didn't listen to the Madam Web episode, obviously.
This is what
That's
I'm
why
saying.
you need to listen to us. Listen to our show because we will spit fire and truth in your ears.
I'm trying to save you 2 hours of time
Yes.
by listening to an hour-long review where I lose my goddamn mind.
Yes.
Please, I'm begging you, make it worth the psychological damage I've done to myself.
And we have psychologically damaged ourselves quite a bit for this show. Yeah.
It's an ongoing issue.
It is definitely an ongoing issue. All right, folks. We are going to start this episode like we start every episode with a little bit of watch, play, read. I am tabling 99% of my watch, play, read because I had to talk about one thing, which kind of we're both going to be talking about.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about a lot of trailers.
Trailer Park, here we go.
I love vampires.
Yes.
I love the 1922, I believe it is, OG Nosferatu movie. Max Schreck plays Count Orlok, and it's F.W. Monroe.
I was about to say, it's that one German director I can't remember the name of.
And it's an iconic film. It has been remade once already in the 70s, I believe it was. And then there was the excellent, I believe it was in 90s, I don't think it was in 2000 yet, of Shadow of the Vampire, where it's like did you ever see that movie?
I don't think so.
It was like a behind-the-scenes making of the movie with John Malkovich playing the director, and Willem Dafoe playing Count Orlok, which makes this trailer great because Willem Dafoe plays the... Now, this is... So, for those of you who don't know, Nosferatu did not have the rights to Bram Stoker's Dracula, so when it was made originally in the 1920s, they had to change the name of the characters and kind of change the story a little bit. So that's why Count Dracula is Count Orlok, and it's not Van Helsing, it's another doctor. And Willem Dafoe plays that character, and it's just awesome that he played Orlok in the movie, and now he plays the guy trying to kill Orlok, and it's like, that is awesome.
De Hextine.
Yeah. But the trailer looks so good. Like, it gave me that same feeling I got when I first saw the trailer for the Demeter.
I got that same feeling.
And it looks so atmospheric.
The look of the movie is incredible and just
God.
riveting to see. You just look at it and you're pulled right in. But then the cast really delivers too. Like you look at that cast and you're like, Jesus, wow, this is incredible. Is this going to be a low-key prequel to Renfield? What's going on here?
And the one that I would be the most nervous about is Lily Rose Depp. Like just the scene she's in, she looked like she really nailed it.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited. It's got Nicholas Hoult, Willem Dafoe, Bill Skarsgård plays Count Orlok. You got Aaron Taylor Johnson. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And it, like you said, the atmosphere in it. I like how some scenes are color, some are black and white. And the tone is very dark.
Yeah.
It looks like it could potentially be a very violent movie, which would be.
I think it is. I think it's going to be a very violent movie.
But it looks so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Like it's weird that it's a Christmas movie, but I really, really can't wait for this.
I'd prefer it to be a Christmas movie than a MLK Day movie. That would be a bad sign.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just, I know, I'm actually happy because I do like it when they put kind of fucked up movies on Christmas. That makes me happy. Like, I want to see this around Christmas now just because it looks so great.
You can dump your kids in whatever animated feature, Paddington 3, we'll say. Not an animated feature, I know.
Close enough.
And go watch this instead while they're transfixed on the British love of Paddington.
Yeah.
And
the British love of Paddington.
I mean, it's a good movie. I can't lie. It's still the strangest.
Paddington 1 and 2 are very good.
It's still the strangest experience I've had watching a movie in a long time, where the entire period of watching it, I'm just like, this is some of the most incredible filmmaking possible. What the fuck is up with the slapstick?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this,
guys. It has
to
remind you every now and then that it's a kid's movie.
Yeah,
it's like,
I was just like, I don't know. This is I don't know. I don't know what to do with this.
But anyway, I'm very excited for this.
Yes.
Like the trailer, I think it dropped today.
Yes, it did just drop today.
It's just been, other than The Last Voyage of the Demeter, there hasn't been a really solid vampire. I mean, horror in general, because we're also going to talk about the new Kit Harington werewolf movie. And it's like that also has that feel, that nice atmospheric, like dark. It's not going to have, like you were saying, the slapstick. It looks like it's not going to be riddled with CGI and all that. And it's like,
I don't think either of these are. The look of them is very old Hollywood in the way that it looks real. Yes. It looks like they really shot this. They weren't going to go back and fix it with CGI or anything like that. It's going to be about the performances and the makeup and the costuming. Those are the things that are going to carry the day. It's not going to be a Marvel thing where they fix it in post by adding a ton of CGI.
That's
or
true.
Pixar thing where they add a lot of lines of dialogue from characters that are just off screen.
And they both did give me the vibe of, like, the reason why I loved the Batman so much. It was a superhero movie, but it kind of didn't feel like it. It felt more grounded.
It felt like a version of Seven, but with Batman.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Thank you for that. And that's exactly it. And then these two movies, they're like, okay, so they're monster movies. You have a werewolf, you got Dracula. It's in that universe, but it also doesn't feel like what we've been getting for those type of movies.
Yeah. And
especially werewolf. Like, we'll talk about the werewolf one in a second.
Yeah. Well, it's just so weird ever since Twilight. I guess really ever since Anne Rice, but I'm going to blame Twilight. It feels like there has been this back and forth pull.
Yeah.
I guess Anne Rice is more to blame because then you have the pendulum swinging in the other way with Underworld, and then it swings back with Twilight, and then it swings back again. And it's just, I'm curious to see an actual depiction of these things. Because, like, for every Demeter you have a Renfield. Where it's like, is this a comedy? This is a very dark comedy. If it's a comedy, is this a dramedy? What tone are we looking for here? This is somewhere between horror and comedy. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
None of it is to be taken seriously. I still can't get over the end of Renfield. I was just like,
oh, that was just weird.
I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, I don't know
what am I supposed to do with this now?
But it's, to me, like, I love, and you're right about the whole Twilight thing, and even Underworld and most vampire, now it's like, if you have a vampire, there's got to be sex. And it's got to be sexy. It's like, I love 30 Days of Night, because it's like, they're just monsters.
I mean, the sex has always been a thing with vampires.
It has, but it's like, it's been cranked to 11.
Oh, yeah. Like, Interview with a Vampire, it changed the game. But
yeah.
But let's not think that Bram Stoker's Dracula did not have its own amount of sex.
That did, but like I think it started with that. To be honest with you, the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
With the Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder.
Yes, that one. Because you're right. That is the one where they really cranked up like the sexuality of it.
There's a three-way in the beginning of that movie.
Yes, there is. And then it goes on from there, and then you have True Blood, which is just nothing but naked people fucking. And you got, even Underworld was just screwing.
It became about people having sex.
Yeah, and it's like, man, I just want to see a monster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, even in this one, yeah, Orlok is going to have sexual feelings towards, but by the look and tone of this, it's gonna be more like what the OG Dracula was with Bela Lugosi, where even though he did have like love and a sexual urge for Mina, you don't really see it. It's in like insinuated,
it's heavily implied,
and you're like, okay, but it's more of, okay, this guy's a fucking monster.
And that was before, if I'm not mistaken, that was before the Hays Code went into effect.
Yeah,
so that was pre-code, so they could have been raunchy with it, they just weren't.
And I still you know, to this day, I can't off the top of my head think of his name, but the guy that played Renfield was so fucking creepy, and I love
it's the eyes.
Oh,
the eyes and the fingernails.
When he's crawling towards the woman on the floor. Oh my god, that is a terrifying thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, cannot wait for this. Merry Christmas, vampires, love it.
Yes.
So let's talk about the werewolf movie.
Let's talk about Beast Within.
Beast Within, thank you.
So the Beast Within stars Kit Harington and Bobby D, who's still doing some work.
Very interesting.
I honestly wasn't sure if he had retired at this point. You hear Jack Nicholson retires, and you're like, okay, so anybody older than Jack Nicholson must have also retired.
Yeah.
No.
Stars
Kit Harington, Ashley Cummings,
James Cosmo.
Oh, it's not. That's why it's not Bobby D. It's James Cosmo.
Yeah, James Cosmo
doing an incredible Bobby D impersonation. He looks like Robert Duvall. I swear to God.
Robert Duvall is like 90s.
This is what I was saying.
Yeah. No, Bobby D. It's like this is that reunion, the Game of Thrones reunion.
Oh yes,
Kit Harington and James Cosmo.
Yes. But this is a take on the old sod of a werewolf story. I like the angle of this. It's a rural family living deep in the woods. You have a dad who is very macho and kind of in his own space, confident. And you have the curious neighbor and the young daughter who is in love with her father and wants to emulate him in every way and wants to follow him everywhere. And it turns out dad's a werewolf. And mom does a lot of scrubbing behind the scenes.
Yeah, and they play it off to he maybe was a werewolf before and the
so she might also be a werewolf.
It could just be a dream sequence because they kind of show her with the sharp teeth. Could be a dream sequence, or it could be she's going to change as well.
I agree with
kind of
you.
Teen wolfish.
That I think the thing this is missing, and each movie does it their own way. We were just talking about with Nosferatu. They don't show us Nosferatu. They don't show us the werewolf in this. I do. God help me, when the Benicio del Toro Wolfman came out, the thing that made me excited about that was seeing the Wolfman in the trailer.
Yep.
So I am all for keeping something secret and some things for the movie itself. I do kind of want to see the werewolf.
Yeah.
Or just a little bit more of it than a hand and some teeth.
Because I think it'll rest because you're right about the thing about the Benicio del Toro one is you could tell it was makeup.
Yeah.
And it was prosthetics, and it was an actual non-CGI werewolf. Now, the transformations, of course, a couple of them were not the best because they were CGI. But the costume itself and the actual werewolf itself was real. And I really hope they go down that road with this where it's like, okay, it would be a lot cheaper to do a CGI werewolf, but the best werewolves have not been CGI.
And I get it. You don't want your werewolf to be just a big fur shag carpet on a large man. But the way that the werewolf is done is always make or break for things.
Yes.
I still say one of the things that I don't like about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, as much as everybody thinks it's the best movie of the series, it's not. It's 7 Part 1 is the best movie of the series. I think the issue that I have many issues with that movie, among them Cuarón's direction, but I really hate the Lupin werewolf.
Oh, it's terrible.
I hate it. I think it's awful. And it doesn't look scary. Nope. It doesn't look good. Nope. It just looks gangly and balding. And it's just like, so I hate to put you on this peg here, but I feel like Steve Buscemi's werewolf from Hotel Transylvania is scarier than this guy.
You're right.
So I'm just like, the look matters, and getting that right matters. And it's not as simple as like even Demeter last year when we saw the trailer for that, part of that was we didn't see the monster, but we saw about as much of the monster as we see in the movie.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying it's not going to work, but I have seen werewolf movies fully ruined by bad werewolves.
Well, and my concern is not only the costume, the transformation.
Yes.
Because, like, I love Bad Moon.
Bad Moon's
the werewolf is great.
Yeah.
But his transformation at the end is so bad that it's like every time I see it, I'm kind of like, oh, God damn it.
See, that's the thing I think you hide. I think that's the thing you use 70 filmmaking style.
Which I would be on board with.
And you just show shadows and close-ups and pain.
Well, kind of like, if you remember, the only time you really see the transformation of the werewolf in the Monster Squad is when he gets shot and he's underneath and you can see like his claws coming out, but you don't see the whole transformation.
No.
And it's also a really awesome werewolf costume.
It's another one of those werewolves where it's just when we see the guy as a human, he's just saying like, you don't understand, you don't understand, you don't understand. And then we see him as werewolf. And there's not really like a movement between the two.
Yes.
They're like not directly in front of camera. There's obviously heavily implied movements between 1 and 2. But, for every time that it works, you got to look at something like Jaws. You got to look at something like Alien.
Yeah.
And you're just like, for every time you have one of those, you have like 10 where they're like, no. We're so proud of this.
Yeah.
We're going to show you the whole thing. And it's like, I kind of wish you wouldn't.
And I wish they wouldn't. Because, like, the sad thing is in my opinion, the two best werewolf transformations ever were American Werewolf in London and The Howling.
Yes.
And it's like, those films are 40 years old.
Yes.
And those are the best transformations we've ever gotten.
American Werewolf in London still might be the best werewolf movie I've ever seen. Just period.
I think it is, except for the more I've seen it, the older I've gotten. The scene at the end where the werewolf's going through the streets, you can absolutely tell that it's somebody pushing the top of a werewolf, like a werewolf head.
I've gotten to the point now where I find that charming. Like, I love good puppet work.
Yeah.
And
I can see. I mean, yeah, it's. I mean,
fun. Like I'm of the very low minority of people that are like, so wait, one of the few things that was good about Phantom Menace, the actual puppet Yoda, you got rid of that and put in a CGI Yoda. Why did you do that?
Yeah,
and then the only thing that's good about Last Jedi is that Puppet Yoda comes back.
Puppet Yoda comes back. Yes.
To break Force rules again. Yeah. Because fuck you and your Force rules. Force has no rules. In fact, it has no name. Guess what, guys? It doesn't have a name anymore.
We're gonna get into that. I mean, honestly, probably the third best werewolf transformation was Michael Jackson in Thriller.
It's a good one. it's like, no lie, it's a good one.
It's like, dude, when you got those three and they're 40 to 50 years apart, it's like, come on, dude.
You can do it. You can do it, but
fingers crossed, man.
Don't do it the wrong way. Don't try and show off. Do it with confidence, but also with a level of humility and knowing what's come before you.
Yes.
Which is to say, learn from previous people's mistakes.
Yes.
So we had that. I did want to touch on the Penguin trailer because I think that looks intense.
Dude.
We haven't had a Batman TV series like this in a while. I don't
think we've had a superhero TV series like this to where it's not like The Boys, which I'll talk about next show, where it's just like, hey, we got to be super violent or we got to be goofy. This is like a crime show that just happens to have...
This looks like a HBO, The Wire era, like just Baltimore crime, but it's Gotham.
But now here's the thing, I do have a question on this, though.
Yes.
So this takes place after the end of the Batman.
Yes.
You can't have the show without having Batman in it, too.
That's a good question.
That's the thing I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how can you have this show where he's taking over the crime in Gotham and you don't have Batman in it?
Well, the way Gotham did it was to make Batman a child. They don't have that on the table. We know we can't do that. Yeah.
He's in the, like, we know he's there.
We know where he is. We know what his current stockage is on gear and capability.
Yeah.
How good a detective is he at this point in his career? I always hate it going back, and I watched Long Halloween recently, and I always find it so frustrating whenever I hear Batman say, I didn't think I was going to have to be a good detective. What the fuck?
You're the world's greatest fucking
detective. What the fuck are you talking
Yeah.
about? Anyway, I am curious about that because it again, it looks like it's going to be a good ride where it kind of has that panache of a mid 2010s superhero thing when we started experimenting with genre, where it's like it's a superhero thing, but it's really this kind of movie with superhero toppings on it. And so I'm curious how they do it. But that being said, it is a Penguin movie or show, so it does have to have some kind of superhero element to it.
Yes.
Even if it's just like the protege that he takes on as like a character that you wouldn't know and you have to look up and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was Matter Eater Lad. You know, like, give me something. You got to give me something. You can't call it the Penguin and walk away.
This would kind of be a good time for like a Nightwing or something like that.
Dick Grayson showing up?
Dick Grayson, do something, but you're right. And it's like, my biggest question after watching this is, we know it takes place right after the end because
the city is still flooded.
It's still flooded. When does because they're making the Batman 2, which obviously by the poster they put out, it has Scarecrow is going to be the villain. But it's like, when does that take place? And how close is it to this? Is this a branch between the two movies? Like, I want to know more about that because it does look fantastic.
It looks good. It reminds me a lot of like Daredevil on Netflix.
Yes,
and
that's a very good analogy.
But again, if we're following that line, capes and cowls are essential.
Yes.
So what are we doing? I got to see that part too. Similar to the werewolf conversation we just had, I got to see the cape and cowl part of it too.
Yes.
You can't sell me this bill of goods, what I might start referring to as a Wookiee Jedi. You can't sell me a Wookiee Jedi and then try and sneak all this pork barrel spending on the side of it like I'm not going to notice.
And, I mean, no offense to Robert Patterson, but if you got Colin Farrell doing a TV show and Clancy Brown and all these big names, he could do a couple episodes.
You could do an episode.
He could do a couple little pop-ins, just so you're like, okay, so Batman is fucking alive during this.
Well, and what I would find really interesting is if we don't see Batman until the end. And so we see him at the end of his investigation. And he's already figured out everything. So maybe we see like a cape in the background every once in a while or something. Cool. But we don't see Batman until he gets to the point where he's ready to spring his trap and get the Penguin off the streets or whatever. I think that'd be really, really interesting.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
And, you got to pepper in, like, you got to have what's-his-face, who was Commissioner Gordon. I didn't check and see who what's-his-face from...
is that Jeffrey Wright?
Jeffrey Wright, thank you.
It is Jeffrey Wright, okay.
But I don't see him on the cast list. And it's like, okay, how can you have crime in Gotham City and you don't have Commissioner Gordon? It's like, I'm hoping he's in it and they just are like going to surprise you. But like, these are a couple big questions. It's like, how can you have Gotham and show crime in Gotham without Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon or Robert Pattinson as fucking Batman?
Let's not forget Gotham, the original Gotham, where that was the big issue that everybody had with it. Was, the writing's pretty good and the acting is pretty good and it's full of a lot of unknowns that are really holding their own and some very, very niche characters like Professor Pig. Who knew Professor Pig was going to be in the show? Weird. But I come to this shit for Batman. And if Batman's not here, then everything else has to be 10 times better to hold my interest.
Yes.
And I think it's also very telling. Some of the best Batman stories. I also watched Batman Year One.
Oh, nice. Great.
Some of the best movie. Batman stories are revolving around Commissioner Gordon. He is not only in the movie, he is an essential element to
Killing
the movie.
Joke, for Christ's sake.
This is what I'm saying. So if you don't have Gordon, you're missing a not insubstantial portion of what makes the movie good.
Yes.
So it's not that I have doubts. I haven't seen enough to have doubts, but I also haven't seen enough for me to give you a full pass. You can't just go into the bank and spend all of my nerd money.
I agree.
So we're going to see.
So fingers crossed on that.
While we're on Capes and Cowls, I do want to talk about the animated Watchmen.
Yes.
That is coming out.
Yes.
That looks intense, but fun.
So this is the only thing I'm hoping for is, I know they're going to be aiming for, supposedly it's going to be almost like a 1-to-1 with the comic book.
That's what it really looks like.
And that's what it looks like. The only Zack Snyder movie I like is the director's cut of The Watchmen. And to me, I really hope that it I don't know. Like, I don't know if I need this animated series.
I'm deeply curious because
I am curious.
I like DC animated features.
Yes.
This is clearly in that milieu.
Yes.
I have been wanting to see someone adapt the actual Watchmen story instead of the version that Zack Snyder gives us.
Yes.
I think this is going to be good, but I'm just curious what about it? Is it just going to be that it's animated, and that's what sets it aside? Is it, how is it going to be different from the TV series that we got and from the movie that we got?
Well, the TV series was just a different storyline.
It was, but it still inhabited what Watchmen is,
yes,
as a presence, as an idea, as a concept. And so I got to see that here. Having it be a incredibly respectful adaptation of the original source material would be great. So how is that going to be heightened by what we're going to see here? So I'm not doubtful. It's definitely, of the things we're talking about today, it's probably one of the things I'm more excited about than anything else. But I do want to see what they do with it.
And I hope that they do unique takes on the characters, and it's not like your Rorschach tried to do a Jack Lee Haley or Earl Haley.
That's the question, right? Is who is going to be the voice cast? Who is going to be bringing this to life? What is the directorial vision of it? And is it really just going to be a 1-to-1? If it's 1-to-1, that's fine, but that means there can't be any adaptive choices. No, that means it has to be 1-to-1. So if you do any adaptive choices, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
So, or you have to do 1-to-1, which is so hard for studios to do. They always want to tinker. I can't imagine a studio wanting to tinker with the very fabric of what makes the thing fucking run.
Somebody had put up a meme of Aragorn's face, and it said, "The day after Disney buys Lord of the Rings, oh, Sauron had a second ring."
Yes. No, exactly. Exactly. Hey, you know that Immaculate Conception? It got nothing against the Immaculate Conception of twins.
Yeah, twins.
Fuck you. Anyway.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to it. So I'm curious about that. I did want to touch on really quick. We don't have to talk about Sausage Party 2 unless you want to talk about Sausage Party 2.
No, I don't want you to ever bring it up again.
Yeah, it's bad. Arcane Season 2 is finally dropping in the fall.
Yes.
Which is very exciting. Netflix has said that they are not going to pursue this after this. They might do spin-offs, but they are not going to do any further stories with these characters, which I think is mostly Netflix saying, we don't like how long it takes to produce this.
Yes.
And we're tired of answering people's questions of when is Arcane coming back. So we're just going to cancel it, and then if we ever bring it back, it's a fun surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
Which I don't love, but like I can't even say that I get it. If you sign in for animation, you sign in for animation. And if you sign in for high quality animation, then you have to be willing to be patient for that shit, man. That's why I get nervous seeing that Vox Machina is coming back so fast. That's why I want to give Sony all the time in the world to get to Beyond the Spider-Verse. So I think it's part and parcel, and I kind of look down on Netflix for being like, oh, it's taking too long. We got to move on.
Yeah.
Wild Robot looks great.
It does.
I wanted this movie to not have a specific story, and the new trailer does seem to have a very specific story and maybe a little bit of a rote story. Mm-hmm. But I want to give it a chance because it looks like an absolutely beautiful movie. And while I wish it didn't have a narrative, so to speak, I do think it looks great.
Yes, I agree. So we need to touch on something real quick before we move to the Acolyte, and that's the Nintendo Direct.
Yes.
So even though I own an Xbox, you own a PlayStation, we are both very much Nintendo households as well.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I remember both mornings when we got a PS2 and when we got an SNES.
Absolutely.
Not on the same day. No. Obviously not on the same day.
No one had that kind of money.
Decades apart.
Yeah.
But they were both such incredible special moments. And the SNES is still one of the best systems that I think has ever existed, period, the end. Because it wasn't beholden to graphics or anything else. It knew what it was, and it was exceptionally good at being that.
Yeah. Which Nintendo, most of their consoles, they stick to that pretty much. Kind of, that you could use that as the tagline for the DS when it was going against the PSP. It's like it couldn't deal with it graphically, but it knows what it is, and it was an RPG machine.
And it's going to be great at that.
Oh, absolutely. And the Switch, which I got to tell you, everyone was curious what was going to happen this Direct because they're like, this year, it's already been said by Nintendo, this is the swan song for the Switch, because within the next 9 or 10 months there will be the unveiling of the next system. This Direct was baller.
It was good.
Holy crap. Some of the games that are coming out on this, like, starts with the I was never a massive Mario and Luigi RPG fan. That first game with Mario and Luigi Brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It looked good.
It looks fine.
Like, I like the animation style.
Yeah.
I thought that looked kind of neat.
Interesting how we don't care that the Mario world continues to decide what powers Mario has.
Oh, yeah.
And we just don't care.
We just don't care.
We just don't care. I think because they've been doing that since the beginning.
Yeah.
They never established firm rules.
No.
Like, mushrooms make you grow. And that's about it.
And that's the one thing I like about Nintendo, too. They're like, fuck it. He does it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. He has a backpack that squirts water.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck if he never had it. This is what he does now.
He has a hat that possesses people because fuck
I
you.
love it.
That's what we're doing.
Exactly. I think we got to talk about the thing I've been dying to talk
Zelda.
about. That's The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. Zelda finally gets to take the reins of her own namesake.
I love not only this art style, because I have played the remake of Link's Awakening, and this art style is beautiful, and I love it. You're right. The fact that you could play it, not only play as Zelda, finally, after fucking 40 years, but that they even mentioned the fact that we don't want her to just have a sword.
Yeah, we wanted this to be different.
Dude, and it somebody had brought this up online. It is very much reminiscent of not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, where you can make anything you wanted. And here, she can duplicate anything, and including bad guys to fight for her. I'm like, that's so fucking awesome.
It opens up so many possibilities for puzzles and
Yes.
for exploration and for just everything. Because suddenly you can do all kinds of things that you couldn't have done in Link's Awakening or in Link to the Past or in what's the other one? Link Between Worlds.
And that's the thing. Like, at first, when you first saw that trailer, I was like, is this a remake of A Link Between Worlds? Like,
Yeah.
that was my first thought. And even though it isn't, I love that fucking game. It's one of my favorite Zelda games ever. And I got a lot of vibes from this.
Yeah.
Of that game.
It feels like a natural progression from that.
Oh, absolutely.
And the fact that it takes place on that same map, like, people have started doing breakdowns to be like, yeah, it's that map, guys. It's that map.
And, like, what I'm looking forward to is this Zelda in the next Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Using her ability to, like, duplicate the person she's fighting to fight against them, and, like, that just blew my mind. Like, right there, I was like, I'm not even a good fighting game fan, but I still have fun with that game. And I'm like, dude, that opens up whatever the next Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild is. Zelda is a playable character, because here we have her as a character. We have a set of, she's always had, like, magical abilities. She has, like, a staff now. Like, do this.
That was always the complaint before the game actually dropped proper in our house was... But the clear progression from Breath of the Wild is to allow you to play as Zelda.
Yes.
And anybody who has played Tears of the Kingdom knows pretty quickly why you don't play as Zelda in that game. But it does feel like I'm missing a hanging chad. If you will.
Absolutely.
Of just like, this should be done. The Zelda CDI games should not be the only time where you can play as Zelda. And so the fact that this is finally being filled in as a pothole in Nintendo's history is very good to see. I don't even think it feels like some of the because they also had stuff like Four Swords and other things on this Direct. It doesn't even feel like one of those Game Boy Zelda games. This feels like a mainline Zelda game.
This is mainline.
Yeah.
Because it if you watch that trailer, the trees that usually block you, she can climb on top and run across now. So it is more of that open world Breath of the Wild feel, where, like, okay, I'm not beholden to just go in certain directions.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that I love. A Link to the Past is one of my favorite games ever. But there are those points where you're like, God damn it, I just want to be able to go through.
Let me go. Let me get here.
Yeah, and you're running into those invisible walls. But here it's like, they don't exist.
Yeah.
As long as you can create it, you can climb over fucking anything. It's like, that is awesome.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's still going to be limitations, because there's always limitations.
Yeah,
there's always a ceiling somewhere. The fourth wall still exists somewhere in that game. So.
And I gotta say, I do appreciate also where, some games and movies, and we're talking about it with TV show and stuff, where you used to have this guy, the man that was the hero, and now the woman takes over, which is totally cool, but they usually make the guy look dumb, like Thor.
Yeah.
Here, Link still did something heroic, before he got trapped.
He gave himself up.
He gave himself up by saving her, but then it's her job to save him. And I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, it isn't Link's adventure, but we're not turning him into Thor Love and Thunder. Yeah. We're not turning him into this bumbling guy that she has to save. It's like, no, he still did something heroic. But now it is her time to shine, and it's like, that's fucking awesome.
And I do agree with you. I'm glad that she doesn't have a sword and shield, and that they moved specifically away from that. I do kind of hope that it does feel like a Zelda game in that, like, you get equipment and stuff. It doesn't seem like that. I would assume so. It seems like instead of equipment, you're going to get new things to copy.
Yeah.
And so instead of getting a bow and arrow, you're going to get this. And instead of doing this, you're going to get a stool and whatever. That's fine. I do like that about Zelda games. I'm not necessarily in the minority, but like I like having the big screen of equipment that you have to go through and find the right
thing.
Which
I'm assuming they're going to do something. They have to, because like you're saying, it's regardless if you're changing which character's the hero of the game, you still got to follow some tenets of the game.
Even Breath of the Wild, you can switch between swords and arrows.
Yeah.
You know, or swords and spears, or swords.
And like, even if they pull like a Final Fantasy and they just give her different magical abilities.
Exactly.
So like, she can mimic things, but then she also has like fireballs.
Can shoot fireballs, can shoot ice beams, can do this, do this. Yeah. No, I agree.
That would be nice.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
And then the banger. I mean, first off, folks, we just don't have time to go over every game in this direct. I love Metroid Prime. Mm-hmm. And the Metroid Prime remake that came out last year was spectacular. Like, I haven't played that game since the GameCube. Actually, that's a lie. I had the trilogy on the Wii. They cleaned it up, and it was one of the best games last year that I had played. And this game looks fucking awesome. It looks like Halo.
Yeah,
but
it looks a lot like Halo.
Yeah.
No, it looks great.
And I think somebody said it was 7 years. I believe it was 7 or 8 years ago that it was announced. Mm-hmm. And then there was the infamous, I think it was 2 years ago, at one of the directs, they said, you know, we had to go in a different direction because it just wasn't coming together. Mm-hmm. And they gave it back to the original team that did Metroid Prime. And yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful. 2025, it says. I do believe this will be a Breath of the Wild-ish game where it'll branch between systems.
Yeah.
Where it'll be like, all right, you're going to get the Switch system one, but you're going to get the Switch 2, like, up-resed 4K, like, nice version of it.
Yeah. But I really wonder if that's what the new Switch is going to be. Is it just going to be the Switch, but with a better processor and better graphics?
See, I think they're going to up the horsepower. I don't know if they're going to... I hope they don't crush the 4K thing, because in playing modern games, I'll play a 1080p game, I'll play a 4K game. It's not that big a deal. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think the thing that I loved about Nintendo is they were always like, you know, the game, and like, you look at this Direct, somebody had put it great. The difference between this and like Xbox's Direct was amazing. The games look incredible. You have no idea when you're going to play these games.
Yeah.
Nintendo shows you all these great games, and it's like, this is when you're playing these fucking games.
Yeah, this is when they're going to be released.
Exactly. And most of them are like within a few months.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like freaking Zelda September.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. It's like, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
26th?
Yeah.
And my kid's going to be in school, and I don't get to play it first. But it's like, that's what I love about Nintendo. It's like, they don't sweat kind of facing off against Sony and Xbox, even though if you consider them part of this generation, which I do, they've wiped the floor with both of them. They're more like, hey, we want just good fucking games. The one time they really tried to force their way into that was the Wii U. Mm-hmm. When their automatic kickoff was just their version of like Batman Arkham City, or was it
Arkham Asylum?
No, because it was the second one.
It was the second one? So yeah, that's Arkham City.
Like re-armored or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, nobody gave a shit. It's like, we don't want that. We want the Zelda game.
Yeah.
That would have run on the Wii U, but it's on the Switch, and we'll take it on Switch too because it'll be fun.
Going back to what we were saying before about knowing what it is and doing that very, very well. It's like watching an AP student just crush their classes, but decide that they really wanted to get buff. And so they stopped being good at their classes so that they could get buff.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, but like, dude, you were more fun to hang out with when you were good at your classes and not buff.
Yeah.
So like, I think just do what you're good at, man. Stop trying to be someone you're not.
And you're buff and you're shallow.
Yeah.
Like, I'll use Senua's Sacrifice, the second one that came out on Xbox. It's like 6 hours long. Mm-hmm. It is the most boring gameplay. It's 90% cinematics. it is the most beautiful fucking video game I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. But it's so hollow and shallow, and it doesn't. It's not a game.
Sounds like Starfield. Sounds like fucking No Man's Sky. These games that everybody was like, oh, ooh, and then they start playing them. Like, where are the chips?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like, just I hope Nintendo, and I think they will, especially with the success of the Switch. Don't do Wii. I mean, I loved my Wii U. Proper branding. Come out with a good name for it.
Yes.
Have banger titles to launch. Like, I'm hoping they are smart and they launch it Mario Kart 9.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
I mean, they sold 60 million copies of Mario Kart 8.
I still say you can keep the Mario Kart name if you want to, but I still say you could go to Nintendo Kart or Smash Kart and just incorporate a shit ton of Nintendo characters, and that's really the only difference.
I think they're going to do it while still... I mean, they kind of did it with the 8 having Link and...
The Splatoon kids.
Yeah, I think they'll keep the Mario Kart name just because of branding. But
I still think Smash Kart gets the best of both worlds.
See, I don't know how they're going to top Smash Ultimate and Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, those are as close to perfect video games as you can get because of how well they run and the unbelievable amount of content in them.
The only thing left to do is to take the peanut butter and take the chocolate and pour them together.
That is true.
Smash Kart. Make it happen, Nintendo.
Which, I know I'm not alone with this, especially on the internet, but if you do Double Dash 2.
Double Dash.
Because I love Double Dash.
Double Dash is great.
Do that.
Yeah.
And then you could have Mario with Sonic on the back of the car or something like fun like that. Master Chief driving with Snake on the back.
Yeah.
Dude.
Have the 9 million Fire Emblem characters that you're going to jam in there.
Driving with Fire Emblem, but fucking stop.
Driving with Sephiroth for reasons unknown to man. Did you know that Lance Bass counts himself as the first Sephiroth? Which he technically is.
Yeah, you're right.
Technically, he is. Which sucks. One more reason why Kingdom Hearts is awful, people. Stop liking it.
Yeah, but I do have that soft spot for Lance Bass after the end of Tropic Thunder. Lance? Did you just say Lance? All right, so we got to move on, though, folks. We have to talk about the Acolyte. 4 episodes have dropped. We haven't talked about it yet.
No.
And
I wonder why.
Everyone has talked about it but us, but now you're going to get our opinion on the Acolyte.
Congratulations.
So let's start at the beginning.
My heart hurts. We haven't even started. My heart hurts. Oh. I've had soul burn. Like, heartburn? I've had soul burn for like 2 weeks since I started watching this show. It's like every time I think about it, I get a little bit more angry.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those shows where I feel a sense of peace and calm come over me when I pause it.
Yeah.
Or just avoid watching it.
Here's my question to all of those haters out there that trash the show.
Yeah.
That liked Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, you're trashing this show for trashing canon, which it does spectacularly.
Incredibly. In ways that a lot of us never thought possible.
But fucking Obi-Wan
didn't do any favors.
Didn't do it 1,000% better.
Yeah.
By destroying the first Star Wars movie.
It also destroyed a not insignificant amount of canon.
Yes.
And it's just determination to live.
So I don't understand that disconnect.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so episode 1 is titled Lost and Found.
Yes.
Okay.
It begins with Trinity being killed. Trinity exits the Matrix, and she's hanging out with a bunch of friends at a pub, and a girl comes up and challenges her to a fight and won't use weapons, and Trinity's like, I don't want to fight, and she's like, you gotta fight.
So Jedi Master Indara is her name.
Yes.
And that is who
Carrie-Anne
Moss
Her name
plays.
is Carrie-Anne Moss, but her real name is Trinity.
It is Trinity.
We all know her as Trinity.
So this is why I have that issue going back to Ahsoka.
That the Force can now do anything you need it to?
No. You have a character that gets completely run through with a lightsaber, and she's up and walking around the next day. Here you have a Jedi Master that gets hit with a 3-inch blade and drops fucking dead in a second.
Yeah.
And she is not a former Jedi Padawan who doesn't really have a grasp of the Force anymore. This is supposedly one of the most badass Jedi Masters in the galaxy. And a tiny little... All I could think about was, you ever seen the movie Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No.
Okay. There's a part in it where he throws almost the identical blade at James Caan, and it hits him in his arm. And he yells to him, "I can't believe you stabbed me with this mail-order shit." And here, she gets mail-order shit in the chest and fucking dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
And this is right in the beginning.
This is the first thing that happens. This is immediately. And then the next thing that happens, because we can't have anything nice, as we go to a Trade Federation ship. Oh, before I should preface all of this, because this was their... I'm going to play this ahead of time. I played a lot of Magic on our vacation. Yes. This is their, I'm going to play this now to fuck all you later.
Yeah.
They start out by saying that this takes place an indeterminate amount of time before the formation of the Senate. Like the formal Star Wars canon that we know. And so the next scene has, and my first thought is, oh, Old Republic. It's not Old Republic.
No, it's not Old Republic. It's, what do they call it? The High Republic?
Something like that.
It's something like that.
But it's definitely not Old Republic, because Old Republic still has respect for rules and canon.
Yes.
So the next thing that happens is we are taken to a Trade Federation ship, a thing that has never had anything bad happen as a result ever. And we meet our character, Osha, who looks exactly like the assassin. And she is a mechanic.
Oh, I hate that term.
And I say... What is a mechanic? I've seen a lot of Star Wars. I don't think I've ever run into a mechanic before. Well, a mechanic is what happens when a group, I guess, decides that they don't trust droids, and so they have to hire human mechanics to fix things.
Even though
the Trade Federation,
the racist Trade Federation,
famously used droids. It's like their big thing is that they use droids. They have an entire army of droids. It's like their big thing is that they really like droids. But sure, hire humans to then use droids to fix things. So I'm sorry. Run it back really quick. What part of this wouldn't be fixed by an astromech? Just any one part of this. Tell me one part of this that needed human hands involved, because the humans still didn't actually fix the goddamn thing. The robot still fixed the fucking thing. She just held it. So what the fuck is the point of that? And the answer can't be, it takes place even older than Star Wars!
Al, it's because only humans can put fire out in the vacuum of space.
Only humans could discover fire in the vacuum of space.
When I saw that scene, because, like, okay, I was already irritated with the whole Carrie-Anne Moss thing, because, of course, she is one of the main pushers for this show, and her face is on the poster.
And she's killed immediately.
And you kill her off in 3 minutes. Okay. When I saw fire in space, I was like,
what are we doing?
What the fuck are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing, guys?
They have spacesuits on because there's no fucking oxygen in space, but there is literal fire in the vacuum of fucking space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so she could have a flashback to what's coming up in episode 3, and you're like,
oh, is she afraid of fire? Dude? Does she have an issue with fire? There's definitely no other way that we could communicate that at any time in this story where there's, atmosphere. You know what? Here's the fucking thing. I would have given you that there was fire between the shield and the ship itself. Like somewhere in that layer there was fire, and that's why they had to fix it, right? Except that the reason they're out there is because they don't have a shield generator. So what are we doing?
It makes me, that's what makes me mad. And we've talked about this briefly before the show started. My problem with the criticisms of this show is the majority of the critics are being dumb because they're using the fact that it's a woman-led series and it's women-led characters, and they're saying it's bad because of that. No. The show is bad because it's fucking bad.
It's a bad show.
It's just, when your first thought in this is, let's put fire in space. That right there, I was completely ready for the show to be as bad as it currently is.
How do you look at The Last Jedi and say, oh, I love all of these ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go 1,000,000% on all of them.
Remember when there was gravity in space?
Remember when they could drop things in space?
They could do fire in space.
Oh, they can definitely have fire in space because this is fantasy in space.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that none of that shit matters, even though it did every other time. When they go out on the fucking asteroid and Empire, do they just walk around? No. They have air masks.
Yes.
Okay? Now, we do have to get over the fact that there's atmosphere on this rock, but there's also life on this rock. So it's not impossible to think that there's atmosphere somewhere on this rock, that this rock is somehow generating atmosphere. I will give you that.
Yes.
But you can't jump right to fire, guys. No. There has to be a progression of events. And it would be one thing if it was just trashing on canon. It's the fact that it's trashing on canon, and then the writing and directing of each episode is so bad, like incredibly, outrageously bad, that I can't get over it. I will wait until we get to episode 3, but holy shit. There were so many moments in episode 3 where I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Not just because of the canon. The actual filmmaking was terrible.
Oh, it's horrific.
It was terrible.
And once again, folks, to preface, there is, I think, a total of 8 episodes in this season. I'm 99% sure. 6 to 8 episodes. This series cost $180 million, not in advertising it, in the creation of these episodes. $180 million fucking dollars.
It's 8 episodes, which means that we are officially halfway through the season.
Yes.
Which makes everything somehow even worse.
Yes. But it's like, you're spending so much money. Like, going back to our last episode when we talked to Godzilla -1. Under $20 million for that entire fucking movie. And here, the special effects and everything are just fucking dog shit.
It's not even that the special effects are bad. It's that the special effects are supposed to help the story along.
Yes.
And, like, Star Wars is as good as it is because of the special effects.
Yes.
But I do think that you have to give credit to the writing. Even though the writing isn't great, the way that it's constructed, the way that the story is constructed, the way that the characters are brought together, the events, the pacing, the look, the style, that all is not just the special effects. That was the writing of the thing itself. Yes. And then the special effects came in and lifted all that shit up even higher. So now you have great special effects supporting a pretty decent story. And you're like, wow, look at this holy shit great thing. This doesn't want to acknowledge that Star Wars? No, that's not true. This thinks that it's smarter than all of us.
Yes.
This is the thing that really pisses me off about this.
And every interview you hear with the showrunner, Leslie Headland, she has that smug thought, and where she criticizes the critics
and the fans
and it's like, you got to remember 20 years ago, fans of Star Wars were ridiculed and looked at as nerds because they loved it so much, and now you're changing the thing they love and they're critical of you, and you're like, well, you don't know what you're talking about,
you don't get my vision.
It's like, dude, because when I look at this, and it is okay, I have no problem with series that we know, including inclusion, let's just say, with LGBTQ and female-led things. Totally okay with that. Look at the best episode of the Last of Us TV series.
Yeah.
That one is spectacular, and it's a homosexual love story.
Yeah.
Look at even Doctor Who. It has gotten progressively better, and it's because the acting and the writing is on fucking point. That's the difference.
Look at something like Vox Machina, where there are a ton of really strong female characters and strong male characters.
Yes.
And the male characters, some of them are gay, some of them are pansexual, some of them are bisexual. So it runs the gamut of all these ideas. All of that stuff is here, but it doesn't fully disregard anybody who likes Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And say, fuck you, I'm smarter. Here, let me take your toy box and show you how to really play with this shit.
And you can't just make something like this, and because it has a message, if somebody is critical of it, saying you don't know what you're talking about. No, you gotta make a good, once again, I've preached this a million times, you gotta make a good story and have the message. You can't have a message and then put a bad fucking story, and then if somebody's critical of it, being mad at them for being critical.
Or saying that they're bigots because they're not being supportive of what you're trying to do. No, that's not the fucking problem. I don't give a shit that there's more female characters in this than male characters. I truly don't care.
Yeah.
You could have all of them be female and any male characters be droids, a la Ahsoka. I don't care. That is not my issue. In fact, one of the things that makes me happier than anything is seeing strong female characters in things. It makes me thrilled. So fucking happy. We just talked for 20 minutes about fucking Zelda. Okay? It makes me so happy when I see women being able to take the story reins themselves and do what they want to do in the story.
Yes.
It's so disrespectful to so many people who have devoted so much time and love and devotion to this series, this concept, this world, to then go in and say, no, you're all fucking dumb. Let me show you how to really do it. This is how you really do Star Wars. And then come in and give us not even a passable Star Wars. Like, it looks like someone tried to remake Star Wars 20 years after Star Wars without any of the in-between.
Yes.
So, like, if you had, like, in the way that they tried to remake Ghostbusters, or the way that they tried to remake RoboCop, or, you know, any number of other things where you had the original, then you had this long span of time, and then the remake came out. And the remake was weirdly different than the original. And you're like, wait a minute, this isn't the original. What is this? What is this Die Hard 5? What am I supposed to do with this? I don't know what you want me to do with this. That's what this is. Except that it's even worse, because during that period of time, we refined what Star Wars was.
Yeah.
And now somebody's coming in and saying, hey, I got new plans, and all the rules, they're still kind of vaguely here, but they're also fully gone.
Yeah.
And anything that you think should happen isn't going to happen because fuck you. This is my vision. This is what I want to do with Star Wars.
And, okay, going back to the first episode.
Yeah.
So, we go to a poorly rendered Coruscant, which it just looked like shit. Especially if you look at Coruscant in the prequels. It just seemed more bustling, where this just seemed empty. Like, there were a couple ships you could see flying around, but it was like, it was just the buildings pretty much.
Yeah.
And here's where we meet Master Saul.
Oh, I do want to, really quick, before we get to Master Saul, I do want to put one more thing in the pot.
Okay.
We meet Yord. We meet Yord.
And his Padawan, Tassi, who is...
And his Padawan!
Yeah.
Which I bring up because she's gone! She... Never again! That one scene! We're introduced to his Padawan.
Yes.
We're told that he is a Jedi Master who has a Padawan. This guy who, I guess, OSHA flunked out of being a Jedi, but this guy was in her class, so they know each other. And he has this, like, I want to protect you, and maybe I'm in love with you kind of thing. And he has a Padawan and all this other shit, but none of that fucking matters. Because the Padawan just fucking disappears after this.
Which is so weird.
You know what a Padawan does? Here's a crazy idea. Do you know what a Padawan does? A Padawan learns by following their master everywhere they go and on every mission they go on.
Yeah.
So the fact that there will be now 2 missions in this show where Yord goes off is fully criticized by everybody, because even though we're showing him as the serious stoic character who may be a little silly at times, he is apparently just a full joke to everybody else.
Yeah, they make him into an idiot, which is except for the moment where he has his shirt off because he's a jacked actor.
Yeah, but that's just him being an idiot in a different way.
Yeah.
Put your shirt on, Yord.
Yeah.
But where's his Padawan? Again, Star Wars
is true.
Star Wars has fucking rules, guys. Star Wars has fucking rules. There are rules that we have to follow. Otherwise, everything falls apart. It becomes anarchy.
Yeah.
Okay? So, like, what are we doing?
I still, you know what? I never even thought of that.
It made me so mad. It made me so mad.
It's so fucking gone. So, we meet Master Saul. I have never seen Squid Games.
Yeah, this is where he comes from.
This is the lead actor, Lee Jong-jae.
I like him. I think he's good.
I don't think he's a very good actor.
You don't?
His delivery is just, it's not great.
I like his delivery. I think that he has this kind of, that same, like, Obi-Wan stoicism.
He does, but he's also, I don't know. It's just something about him. I don't know if he's just it's a bad show and I'm just, everything he says is just bad, but I'm not like in love. He is the like Obi. You're right. He is the Obi-Wan of this show.
Yeah.
And I don't have that same feeling towards him that you should have of somebody in his position.
See, I think what it is for me is that he's a character that I like, so he's a buoy. It's like in this raging ocean of bad anti-canon. There's like, okay, here's the Jedi. I'm just going to hold on to this one Jedi, and he's going to be a Jedi, right? Because if he's not a Jedi, I'm going to die.
Because, like, to me, that's... I know, even though he's written poorly in a couple things, to me, that's Yord, because he actually has, like, that almost Spock stoicism and logic to where even in episode 2, there's a scene where he says, this is what we need to do to get this guy to speak. They go against him, but then they end up doing what he originally said, and it's like, and okay, so he actually knows what the fuck he's talking about.
He's the one that can prove Osha didn't kill the second Jedi Master.
Yes.
Which is like the whole premise of the first 2 episodes is that everybody thinks Osha is killing these Jedi Masters.
Okay, so here's my problem.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the fact that a bunch of people knew that she had a twin and nobody wrote it down? That's really interesting.
Because they thought she died, but then no one wants to talk about it.
Nobody wrote it down.
And nobody wrote it down.
There were 4 Jedi Masters on that planet. Nobody wrote down that you found 2 children. Nobody wrote down that you found 2 children.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really important.
Yeah. So
anyway,
they find Osha.
Yes.
After she survives a spaceship crashing from space.
Well, first she has to get all of the people off the ship.
Oh,
she has to. We have to see that she is definitely not the assassin because she helps all these people get off the ship.
And they have like that slapstick moment of the guy she helps, and he's like, "I'm getting in there, bye!"
Yeah,
and
bye.
he flies out, and you're like,
and he's on some. He's some kind of guy, and his punishment is to be attached to this slug that wipes his brain or something.
Okay. Getting before the prison ship, she kills it. She supposedly killed a Jedi. Why did the 2 Jedis put her on a prison ship with a 1 robot guard and 2 droids flying it when she supposedly killed one of the most powerful Jedis in the galaxy?
Without a weapon.
Without a weapon. Because she needed to have her attack her with all her might.
Also, the more you say that, the worse it sounds.
It's so dumb. It's so fucking dumb.
You gotta stop saying it. You gotta stop saying it.
Well, she stops, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, so that was fucking stupid.
Dumb. It's not good that my favorite thing about the ship is that the droids turned into chairs. That's not a good sign. Yeah. That's really bad. That's not a good sign. That's really bad, guys. Yeah. But that was by far my favorite thing was the droids folded up and turned into chairs. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all I liked from that.
So ship crashes from space. And not only is she okay, there's not a mark on her.
No, she's fine.
Even though the ship is like fucked up. It's really destroyed. But no, she's fine.
Yeah, no, the ship is ruined.
Yeah.
The ship is like, it has giant holes in it. And she strapped herself down and was perfectly fine. In fact, all of the search party, so you have Sol, you have Yord, and you have Jecki, played by Daphne Keane.
Yes.
In a ton of makeup. Who is a Padawan, maybe, but not Yord's Padawan.
No, they kind of play her off like she might be Saul's Padawan, but they don't ever say it.
But she's not Saul's Padawan, so what is she? But they all come running in, all like, oh, panic, panic, the ship's crashed, panic, panic. And she's just sitting there having lunch, chilling, being like, hi, guys, what's up?
Yeah. Well, she has a vision of May, and so she tells Saul... May is still alive, and he's like, I believe you. Yeah. After him saying, I know she's dead.
Yeah.
And then all, like, right away,
saying, like, I know she's dead to the degree that he didn't tell anybody that she had a twin.
Yeah.
I can't get over how many conversations revolve around, Osha has a twin.
Dude.
Wait a minute, hang on a second. How did we get this far in the investigation and nobody knew she had a twin?
And can we talk about how they're obviously... fraternal twins, because they're 2 separate actresses that played them as kids, and they don't look a lot alike.
No.
But they are, after 16 years, not only do they have the same fucking hairstyle, but they are exactly alike because it's the same actress.
It's just one actress playing 2 roles.
But when you see the flashback and you're like, they're not identical at all.
But you can confuse them. I know, because I did. We're going to get to it.
Yeah. But it's like, how the fuck?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
How are you going to play off that? Not only are they identical, but after 16 years, they're going to keep, both of them are absolutely going to keep this exact same hairstyle they had as kids.
Well, and I love that the only distinguishing feature between the two of them is supposed to be this little mark on the forehead covered by these big bangs that they both wear.
Yeah, they both wear.
And it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
It's like, you've never seen Harry Potter, you got to show the lightning bolt.
Jesus fucking Christ.
All right, so we go on to episode 2, Revenge Justice.
And we're like, things are going to get better, right? We're not going to desecrate more canon, right?
Okay. So...
where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the blind Jedis or the dumb Jedis? Or the fact that Jake Jordal shows up as the smartest person in town?
How about, let's start with, what is the main thing Yoda is talking to Luke while he is training on Dagobah? A Jedi is a master of not only the mind, but of the body.
Yes.
How is there, and I'm not saying this as a negativity towards body positivity, how is there an overweight Jedi? I don't get it.
That I didn't care about. That was fine.
No, but it's like, that's the little things we're talking about. Like, if you know the canon, the Jedi are pretty much like the Navy SEALs, but with more patience. Where it's like, you are the best of the best. And Yoda's specifically said, you are mind and body perfection. Mm-hmm. And you are like everything. And you're going to have this guy that looks like he came out of a British pub.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, that was just clearly a cameo casting. Somebody wanted to be in the show.
It was, but it's like, dude.
No, I understand. It didn't really bother me because I look at all Jedis as all kinds of things.
I think that's my problem is after the first episode, I started nitpicking everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially canon, because I am not a Star Wars fan. But I know the fucking canon as well as anybody.
The thing that I was super distracted by, and the reason I call them blind Jedis, is because this assassin tricks her way in to a sealed sanctum, which, by the way, later on in the same episode, she gets into without having to bribe a child to help her get in.
Yeah.
She just gets in through a window. So I guess that is a thing for reasons. But she goes in to this temple filled with Jedi who know that the Jedi master of their master, was just killed.
Yeah.
And no one can sense an assassin on the premises. Not even kinda. Not even a little. And then, as if to make this even better, she finds Timor Lannister? Whatever the second Baratheon is.
Dude.
The second Baratheon boy.
He's the king that jumps out the window after Cersei destroys all his wife.
His wife.
But can we talk about
the haircut that they gave him?
The prosthetic beard and hairpiece are so laughably bad.
It's not good.
I cannot think of a non-comedy movie or television show that I have seen a worse fake beard and hairpiece.
It was really bad.
It was shockingly, laughably bad.
Like, I saw it and I was like, shit, dude. Tommen Baratheon, also known as Torben here. But Torben, who has a scar and he's balding and he has a bad mustache and beard.
Oh,
and
my God.
He just kind of floats there meditating. And then she tries to punch him and she can't punch him because he has a force barrier. Oh, I hate the force barriers, guys. I'm getting really sick of this. They do it a lot in the first episode. And now they're going to do it a lot here where the force can just do anything. It can just do what you need it to. And I'm just so fucking sick of that, guys.
She throws knives because,
that'll work. That'll definitely work. And that doesn't work.
Dude.
So she goes back to her buddy, Jake Jordals, who is Manny.
I couldn't quite place him until I heard this online, and it is 1,000% correct. He is the Asian Ezra Miller. He looks exactly like fucking Ezra Miller, especially in this show. And when I heard that and I watched it again, because I rewatched these episodes with my son, so I have watched these episodes all twice.
Good for you.
Holy shit, does he look like Ezra Miller? Yeah. Like, it is shocking how much he does.
Manny Wakanito, who I call Jake Jordals from The Good Place.
Oh, okay.
He was in The Good Place. He plays the monk that doesn't speak, but he's actually just a dumb idiot from Jacksonville. Okay. So when he has to sneak into heaven, they say you have to have a code name. You can't just use your regular name. And he, as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, can't choose Blake Bortles because the entire crew says he can't be Blake Bortles. So he becomes Jake Jordals. And so Nice. I only know him as Jake Jordals. Nice. But Jake Jordals is a guy. He may be behind all of this. He may just be an idiot. We don't fucking know.
I forgot something about episode 1. We'll get back to this.
Yeah.
It ends with the worst cliche that I'm so goddamn tired of.
The master on the beach.
The master on the beach.
With the waves.
Who lights his lightsaber for no fucking reason. Okay. Yep. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yep, no.
Back to episode 6.
It's dumb as shit.
Dumb as shit.
Anyway, so Jake Jordals is talking to May, and they're coming up with a plan because they both serve the same master. Who may be Jake Jordals? We don't know.
The master wants her to kill the Jedis without a weapon for some fucking reason.
I guess knives count as a weapon? Or don't count as a weapon?
Well, no, because they said because he said you've killed the 2 Jedis your way. You need to do the third one, the Wookiee, without a weapon.
Yeah.
So in the 3rd episode, or fourth episode, he flat out says that those first 2 didn't count.
Yeah. And which makes me think that he's behind all of this. But he's so much of an idiot that I'm like, but could he be? But this show is so dumb that I'm like, hey, he could be. So they decide that they're going to poison Torben.
Yeah.
And so she goes to Torben and she says, the only way you will ever find absolution is to take this poison and let me kill you. And he's like, okay. And he drinks the poison. And I'm like, so what happened that he feels so guilty that he's willing to kill himself in this way?
And when you go to the flashback, you're like,
what the fuck are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
What on earth are you talking about? There had better be a major reveal in an episode or 2 that changes the tenor of everything that we've seen so far, because otherwise, this is unacceptably bad writing. Okay, so Torben kills himself.
Yes.
And wouldn't you know it, Osha walks into the room just as he dies. Yes. Oh, and now she gets caught. Oh, no. But Yord was following her, so it doesn't count. Okay, whatever. And then they come up with some cockamamie scheme that they're going to trap May by sending Osha
to Ezra Miller's place.
In her place. And
yes.
That, of course, fucking doesn't work. Because of course it fucking doesn't. And then Sol and May have the standoff, and May throws a bunch of dust in the air, and they lose her because they're really bad Jedi.
It's like there were multiple Jedis.
There were like 5 Jedis.
Minimum 2 masters.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Within 20 feet. Within 20 feet of her. Yeah. And she just makes a big cloud of dust, and she's gone. Yeah. And nobody knows where she is except Osha, who sees her and shoots a stunner, but misses on purpose, even though it's a stunner. And I want to give you points. Listen, I want to give you points because nobody's used a stunner since Carrie Fisher got jacked in the back by a stunner. But come on, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's happening?
And she's killed 2 fucking Jedi.
And it's not like you would kill her if you shot her.
Yeah.
You're only stunning her so you can bring her in. So if you knowingly don't do that, it must be because you want her to get away.
Yeah.
But why would you want her to get away? That's antithetical to literally everything we've learned about you as a character. You're supposed to have this fiery hatred for your sister because she killed everybody you know. Maybe. But then this happens, and I'm just like, so what do you want me to do with this, man? What do you want me to do with this?
Bad.
You tell me one thing, and then you show me another. That's the entire thing. Every episode of this show, they tell us one thing, and then show us the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
And you're just left being like, so what the fuck is the point of any of this? None of it matters, because you tell me one thing, and then show me something else.
Yeah.
You tell me that only this one way will work, and then you show me another way working.
Yeah.
And on top of all of that, you take all of the Star Wars canon that I know, and you say, fuck you, none of this matters. You can now see the Force. I'm going to punch you. Yeah. I'm going to punch you so fucking hard because you so clearly don't get it. And the only way I can think to jog your brain is like an idiot in a 1930s movie where he has to slap his buddy to get him to come to his senses.
And I'm almost thinking we should talk about episode 4 first, because the ending of this episode leads into that one where 3 is kind of an offshoot.
3 is just kind of an offshoot.
Yeah. The reason why I want to talk about it is the end of 2 has May runs into Qmir, whatever you say his name, Ezra Miller, I'm just going to call him. And she is almost ready to kill him because he talked to the Jedi. And he's like, no, I know where Kelnaka is, the Jedi Wookiee living on Kofar. He goes, I know where he is.
Yeah, you can't do all of this.
Yes.
And then come to me with a Wookiee Jedi cake and be like, sorry, it's a Wookiee Jedi. You've always wanted to see a Wookiee Jedi, right? No, it's too late for that now. We're way past that now. We're way past that.
Episode 4 starts with May and Ezra Miller landing on the planet. Now, this is happening right after they left.
Yeah.
They leave the planet. They land on this planet. Leaving the planet, May is like, I'm going to kill you for talking to the Jedi. He's like, I know where the other Jedi is you want to kill. All right, let's go. Land on the planet, and May's like, fuck it.
Well, not only that, this is what I'm talking about when I say they tell us one thing and show us another. They land on the planet, and Chimere, whatever his name, he tells May, even bounty hunters are scared to come to this planet. It's so uncharted that if you go out into the jungle alone, you will get lost and die.
Yes.
And we're like, okay. And then they cross a bridge.
Yeah.
So, guys, I gotta ask, if this is an uncharted planet full of danger that you can't go out into the jungle because nobody's ever trekked it, and even bounty hunters are scared to come here, who built the bridge?
Yes.
Why do you have a bridge here?
That is fucking stupid.
And then later on in the episode, we find out there's a bunch of people living on the planet.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You just told us that this is like the most dangerous place in the world. And even somebody of May's capability can't go off on her own because she will 100% die. And even Boba Fett is scared to come here. But there's just people.
And
there's just people chilling.
At the end of episode 2, when you see the Wookiee Jedi, there are 2 bounty hunters at his door.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
It's like, well, how the fuck did they get there?
So
they must not have been afraid.
You can't tell me this and then do this. You can't tell me nobody comes here and it's desolate and uncharted and nobody knows anything about it and it's super dangerous and then show me a bridge. That's antithetical to what you just told me.
And they tease us at the end of episode 2 with Kelnaka.
Yes.
They teased us at the beginning of this episode with 2 seconds of Kelnaka.
Yes. Kelnaka's dead by the time
and then they kill him off screen.
Yeah.
You don't see... What is the one thing that might have salvaged this show?
A Wookiee
fight. Jedi on-screen fighting.
I do, while we're on Wookiees, I do have to ask, is the dress code... First off, I didn't realize that yellow was part of the dress code.
Yeah,
Everybody wears yellow now.
They wear yellow.
They all wear the same color yellow. And I'm just like, is this like a High Republic thing? Is what's going on here? This is weird. This has never been a thing before. But now you're drawing intense attention to it. So I don't know what to do with it. Second, do you remember the invasion of Kashyyyk in Revenge of the Sith?
Yep.
Yeah, there were a lot of Wookiees there, right?
Yep.
How many of them were wearing clothes?
None.
Yeah, so I just gotta ask, how stringent are the Jedi that like, no, you gotta wear a shirt and a cloak.
Yeah.
You put on a shirt. Pants, you don't need pants, but a shirt, you wear a goddamn shirt.
Yeah. It made me think of one of my favorite robot chickens ever. When Han Solo, Chewbacca takes him to meet his family, the door opens and his family all has clothes on. And Han looks at Chewie, you've been naked this whole time? And Chewie's like, I love you, and just walks towards him. That made me think of this. I'm like, are they just have their Wookiee balls out the whole
What's
time?
going on? Because no
know.
Wookiee before this has ever worn clothes, and nobody seems to have ever had a problem with it. But suddenly, you introduce a Wookiee Jedi, and I guess he's got to put a shirt on.
So May decides, she tells Ezra Miller, she traps him and says, I don't need to fight for your master anymore. I'm going to turn myself into the Jedi and give up.
She has a full change of heart.
Because only my sister I care about now, even though the last time I saw her, I tried to kill her, which we will talk about in episode 3.
In several degrees.
Several, yeah.
To several ends.
But 16 years later, you find out she's alive and all that matters is her now.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's it. So you're willing to just give up everything that you've worked for the last 16 years, all of this, and just walk away because Osha's here?
And she thought...
Then why did you drive off at the end of episode 2?
Yeah.
If you felt that way, then why didn't you just stay here and do the plan that you're now insisting on doing?
Yeah.
That's fucking dumb.
And it's like... Why in the fuck do you think that by telling the Jedi about your master, they're going to forgive you killing 2 Jedi masters?
Yeah.
That's the part that really... Like, I was listening to her whole spiel to Ezra, and I'm like, what the fuck,
What are you talking about?
What are you talking
What
about?
are you
killed
talking
2
about?
fucking Jedi masters.
Yeah. You think they're just going to welcome you back with open arms because you give up your master to them? Your master who you don't know who it is, you don't know what they look like, and you've never spoken to.
Yeah.
And you're just going to give them up. How? How?
I love it. Some people refer to him as Smilo Ren because he has the smile mask.
Yeah. Oh my God, we got to get to the smile mask. But Jesus. Before we get there, we have to talk about this forest of doom that they keep talking about. They keep on saying we can't stay after dark.
Yes.
We will be fucked 5 ways to Friday if we stay after dark. So we got to get out of the woods before dark. And they are just not making headway getting out or into these woods before dark.
Awful bug attack.
A stupid, useless bug attack where there's these things wrapped around trees and everybody walks past them again because they're all dumb, bad Jedis. Yeah. And Osha touches one and wakes it up, and then it flies at the Jedi and Soul kills it. And it's just this moment for Osha to be like, if I hadn't woken it up, it wouldn't be dead. And I'm just sitting here like, what about the rest of the swarm?
Yeah.
There was an entire swarm.
And then it's daylight, but they're saying the only reason he attacked them is because he was attracted to the lightsaber light. Because they said that the bugs are attracted to light, and that's why it came at the lightsabers, because it's attracted to its light. It's like, it would have went up to the sky where fucking sun was out.
Well, and it did. It flies away.
Yeah.
And then it has to fly back.
The lightsaber comes out.
And I'm just like, what? What's happening? And like so many other things in the show, we walk out of that section of the forest and I'm like, so that's never going to come up again.
Nope.
That's never going to be a thing ever again in this show. We will never talk about it ever again. It's going to be like Yord's Padawan. It's just gone. It was a part of the show, now it's gone. And so I guess that happened. And we have a creature that speaks not Wookiees.
Basil the tracker.
Basil the tracker of some race. We don't know what he is, but he apparently speaks the same language that the Wookiees speak, even though it doesn't sound anything like what the Wookiees speak. So that's weird. It's kind of interesting and weird. When you have two people speaking the same language, usually sounds the same, vaguely the same.
They pulled the Doctor Who thing to where it was completely unnecessary for her to say he, them. Yeah. And it wasn't a big, like, to me, I blew past that. It wasn't a big deal, but it's like, I think you kind of knew you were going to get the blowback you got.
Yeah.
And I'm almost wondering if it was like just like a jabbing.
I think it was.
And it's like, you didn't need.
I mean, like this whole show is about putting fingers in your eye. This whole show is about putting fingers in your eye and being like, now you're smarter for having been poked in the eye. And it's just infuriating because it takes this thing that I really, really care about and it trashes it to hell. And then it tells me I'm dumb for not liking it. And I'm just like, no, I think. Call me crazy. If you're going to make a new iteration of something in a long-standing franchise, you gotta follow the rules of the franchise. All right? And it's not like Star Wars' rules are hard to grasp. Everybody can get them pretty quick. Children catch on to them extremely fast. Yeah. So I feel like you, as an adult, should be able to do this, but you clearly can't.
No.
And so we get Smile Ren. Comes out of the woods, and he doesn't say anything. He just has the Knights of Ren visor down, and this weird, like, fucking dazzled like smile.
S&M, like, zipper smile thing or something.
And it's just like...
it's so dumb.
Nobody wanted to do another run on this. Nobody wanted to check again and make sure that this was really what we wanted the villain of the series to look like. Are we, like, crazy sure? Because even if you just got rid of the little fucking studs that they put in his mask. Like, if you just get rid of that shit, it would be a perfectly passable costume. It would look a lot like Marok from Ahsoka, but even so, it doesn't matter. It's fine. He didn't have any dialogue. He was a gas person. He, like so many other things in Star Wars, will never be spoken of ever again.
Yes.
In 3 years, when somebody's listening to this and I say Marok, they're going to be like, who the fuck is Marok?
Well, and that's another thing that people are pointing out, that the dude from... I can't remember his name. He's the Master Jedi that was on the Jedi Council and the Phantom Menace.
Oh, yeah!
That says there hasn't been a Sith in a millennia. Is in this episode, and he knows that there's this Sith.
Not only is he in this episode, and again, I see what you're doing. You have this carrot hanging here, and you want me to take it. But showing me Plo Koon is not going to get me to take it, guys! You can put Plo Koon and this other two-brainer over here in this episode. You know what it's going to do? Make me mad.
Yeah.
Because why are they here? Why are they here? No sense. And now you're going to, like, so what is the timeline? How
old is Plo Koon? Like, how long can he live?
How far before Phantom Menace does this take place? Yeah. Because we have at least 2 Jedi Masters who are still on the Council by the time we get to the Clone Wars. So, what's going on?
And I mean, Master Yoda, when he dies, says he's 800 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like, how old are these guys?
How old are these guys?
How are they not running the Jedi Council?
What's
they gotta
going
be
on?
1,000 years old.
What's happening?
I don't get it.
You can't just do this shit. You can't just cycle through the catalog of Star Wars characters and be like, oh, that one looks cool. Let's use that one. That's not the way this works.
And I don't quite get how you have this group of Jedis that are supposedly powerful. I mean, there's only technically one maybe Padawan in the group. None of them sense Smilo Ren until he slowly rises up behind Osha.
That's because they're all the worst fucking Jedis of all time.
They're just so fucking
they're
bad.
Totally terrible Jedis.
How do they not sense this insanely powerful Sith Lord?
Well, how did Sol not sense that this child fell and didn't die?
Yeah.
How did a million things? There's so many moments. At this point, I've given up on trying to count how many moments there are in the show where I'm like, you know what'd be really useful? Force sense! Yeah. It was one of the first Force powers way back before any of this shit!
Yes.
You have all this shit in here, but you don't have Force sense? What kind of bullshit are we doing?
It's so bad. And then it ends with him doing this force push on all the Jedis and sending them flying.
And then hard cut to black.
Thanks to the trailer, there's a scene where this Sith throws their lightsaber and it cuts through a bunch of trees because we've seen it in the fucking trailer.
Yeah.
So we know there's going to be a big fight and everyone's like, oh, well, that's when the show will get good. It's like,
no, it's not. No, it's not.
It's not going to get good.
No, it's not because
I tell you right now, I would be absolutely shocked if this Sith Lord isn't Anastasia.
That would also makes a lot of sense.
The mother that creates the Jedi in the way that Darth Sidious talks about Darth Plagueis and how he can create life and save life and all that.
And famously, this little guy named Anakin Skywalker. Kind of a big deal. You may have heard of him. He kind of comes up every once in a while. Anakin Skywalker. Maybe? Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody want to talk about
midichlorians?
No. Okay. Do you want to talk about episode 3?
Let's talk about it.
It's really bad,
kids.
Okay,
we gotta talk about episode 3.
Okay, so how bad is episode 3? It's so bad that at one point Torben is taking blood from children for plot reasons, and I was begging them to mention midichlorians.
You know that's what it was.
Yeah, I'm just begging them. Words. I'm just begging them because at this point you might as fucking well. Yeah. You have every other fucking bullshit piece of garbage here being mutilated and tortured into this new form. Let's fucking throw midichlorians on there. One that I hate. Sure, it's just the same as one that I love, right? Why not? So we meet the kids. We meet May and Osha's children.
And the Coven of Witches.
Which isn't the Coven of Witches from Ahsoka, and it's also not the Coven of Witches that Darth Maul is from. This is a third unique Coven of Witches.
Yes.
But you wouldn't know that because the first witch that we meet looks like Darth Maul. Yes, so I'm like, okay, so this is Darth Maul's group, right? No, not even kind of. What the fuck are we doing?
I have no idea. Oh, God. So May and Osha, not only are they not identical twins like they are in the show, they are obnoxious in the way that when the focus isn't on them, and they start, like, fighting, it is in the most ridiculous, poorly acted way. And I don't think the girls were bad.
No, they're bad directing.
But it's just saying, okay, as soon as your mother turns her back, start arguing loudly where she can hear.
Start hitting each other.
But she doesn't notice it until she turns around.
Yeah. Well, let's also talk about filmmaking, because these two girls are dressed exactly the same.
Yes.
And while they might not be actual twins, they do look strikingly similar.
Yes.
Really quick, it might be helpful to the audience to give some kind of distinguishing feature to each one. So you knew who was talking when. Because when one of them is talking about the dangers of the tree and the other one corrects them about not eating the tree, I don't know who's who.
See, the only reason I do is because I saw it the second time. And that was one of my things about this episode is I'm like, I need to pay attention to what they look like. And it did make it easier. No, okay. it made it painful watching it a second time, but it made it easier to decipher between the two of them by watching it.
But that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't take a second time.
No, it should not.
We have over 100 years of filmmaking knowledge.
Yes.
We know how to do this. You know how you do this? You make them look, a little different. Even if it's just like one has a color on their shirt that the other one doesn't. Or one is wearing pants and one isn't. Okay? Or you have the characters address each other when they're talking. So you know who's talking to who. And you don't play the fucking game where you mix up who's on what side of the camera. Yeah. There were so many moments where I was like, so that's May and that's Osha, because Osha was on this side of the camera and May was on this side of the camera. No, fuck you. They're on opposite sides of the camera now because now we're walking. So I don't know who's who. Yeah. And eventually it just becomes which one is sad and which one isn't. The one that's not sad is May. The one that is sad is Osha. And that's the only way you can tell them apart after a while. And it's infuriating.
Well, it's... in the whole filmmaking portion of it is because you do have somebody was given almost $200 million to write and direct this franchise that is beloved for 50 fucking years, and she has no experience to the point.
I was shocked when I looked at her IMDb.
This is what, if I was her, of everything, this would make me the maddest. She has such little experience that anytime she's brought up, she's referred to as Harvey Weinstein's former assistant, because that's what she is. And it's like, that should be the last thing you're fucking talked about. You know what I mean?
The only thing
distant from that shit.
The only thing of note on her IMDb is Russian Doll. That's it.
And even that, like, it's like, okay. Like, I've watched an episode of that, and I was like, all right.
Sleeping with Other People, that's a movie that I've heard isn't very good, and suffers terribly from trying to pretend that Jason Sudeikis and Alison Brie are in their late teens.
Yeah.
That's it, kids.
And it's like, this is my problem with her reaction specifically. If this was a male directing something this badly, no one would give them shit for calling him out on directing it badly. But because it's her doing, and everyone's taking offense to it, it's like, it has nothing to do with her sex or gender or whatever. It's the fact that she's doing a shitty fucking job. It's not good.
I want to make sure that I get the right guy. But when we were watching The Flash, the movie, not the show, not the... when we watched that and we saw Baby coming out of the microwave and the entirety of whatever that Speed Force nonsense was.
Director,
Andy Muschietti, who directed it, came out and said, "Oh, it looks that way because it's distorted by the Speed Force, so that's why it looks that way." And we all criticized him for that.
And he was...
because that was dumb.
Wholeheartedly ridiculed.
That was a dumb thing to say. Had nothing to do with who he is as a person.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with his gender, his nationality, any of that, anything. Has everything to do with terrible filmmaking.
Yes.
So, Miss Hedlund, I gotta tell you, this has nothing to do with you personally. This has everything to do with the fact that you seem to think you're smarter than all of us.
Yes.
And that's what I'm angry about. It's not that you're a woman.
You're doing it with a franchise that is absolutely heartfelt, beloved by millions of people.
I think, pretty easily arguable as the most popular franchise, period.
Oh, yeah.
Top to bottom, the most popular franchise ever. Of anything ever.
Yes.
More than Harry Potter. More than Star Trek. More than Dracula. More than Frankenstein. More than fucking Jesus. Like, anybody, this is it. But everybody knows Star Wars and everybody has a feeling on Star Wars.
This series is what we have talked about with the problems that we have with Marvel and Disney, where it's like, you and Kathleen Connolly and Lucasfilms, it's like, you have a responsibility to the fans to give them something good. And when you don't, you cannot blame the fans for being fucking mad.
No.
You need to blame yourself for putting out dog shit.
Yeah. Well, it's like when sports teams say you're not a real fan unless you're a fan when we're bad too. No, that's not how any of this works. Listen, if you suck and I blame you for being bad, that has nothing to do with me being a bad fan. That has everything to do with me saying you're doing a bad job.
And that's always been my criticism with people who anytime someone has a negative thing to say about America, and they're like, "Oh, go move somebody else. You're not an American." It's like, no, I love this country so much that I'm going to criticize it when it does stupid shit 'cause I want it to get better. That's how this show is. I have an appreciation. I don't love the series, but I have appreciation for nerd culture and the shit that we love, that if you're going to fuck it up, take accountability and make it better.
Take accountability. Say, wow.
Yes.
Look internally and say, what did I do to put myself in this situation? Yes. How did this happen? Because I had the reins the whole time. The fans didn't come in and change things. The fans didn't come in and rewrite it. The fans didn't come in and do the CGI for them. The fans didn't do anything. The fans just watched the goddamn thing and didn't like it because you decided that you were smarter than everybody who's ever done Star Wars ever. All right? Anybody who's ever enjoyed Star Wars, anybody who's ever watched Star Wars, anybody who's ever made Star Wars, anybody who's made a Star Wars fan film, I feel very bad for anybody who's made Star Wars fan films back in the day, who were really earnestly trying to make good films, and then they see this shit with the official tag on it, just desecrating everything that they cared about. What the fuck are we doing?
So, by saying desecrating, I think we need to talk about the thread.
Oh my god!
So you're gonna change... And okay, so
the purest, most simple element of Star Wars.
Yes.
The Force.
Yes.
Everybody knows what the Force is.
Yes.
Everybody knows. Okay? In the same way that everybody knows what gravity is. Okay? And if you had a religion that, for some reason, praised gravity and just followed gravity as this benevolent force that held us all to the earth, it would be really weird if an offset of that sect said it was something completely different. Yeah. That'd be kind of weird. And then also show it to us physically in the physical realm. What are we doing?
Yes.
What are we doing?
And it's like, so Mother Coral, who is the Darth Maul looking one that carried the twins, and then you have Anastasia, who is the leader of this coven, and the one that she says, so Mother Coral says, I carried them, but Anastasia says, I created them, because she used the Force to create these twins. What I love is when Anastasia is doing this awful class for the girls,
oh my God,
and it's explaining, calling it the thread, and then she says, it is not used to attack.
And then immediately uses it to attack.
Well, you could even say that she was using it to, like, deflect an attack. But what does she do right when the Jedi come? She attacks Tobin using the goddamn thread, and it's like, you just fucking said it's not for attack.
And she goes on this whole diatribe about how the Force is wrong and Jedis are wrong, and this isn't about who uses the Force, or rather, this isn't about how you use the Force, it's about who gets to use the power.
Yeah.
And all these other bullshit, nonsense, garbagey things that she's proselytizing to these kids. And ultimately, like, she is talking about how evil and horrible the Jedi are. She's doing the exact same thing to her kids.
This show, and that should be another thing that pisses people off, this show is trying to make the Jedi look out to be the bad guys.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in this episode, they have them coming to steal the children because they want to train them, even though these women are training them the way they want. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? The Jedi are like the good...
And the Jedi keep saying we never take people who don't want to go. But, like, I guess they do.
Because if May would have passed the test, they would have forced her to go.
I guess. We won't ever know, because that part of the show is over now.
Oh, my God.
No, it's infuriating because it is so clearly the Force that they're talking about. But they so badly want us to not think it's the Force.
Yeah.
They so badly want us to think that this is greater and different than the Force. Listen, I've seen that. Because I watched Rebels.
Yeah.
They talk about that in Rebels. They talk all about how the Force works and how it's beyond anything that the Jedi understand. The Jedi understand one element of the Force. There's so much more to the Force than that. They don't do that here. No, not even close. They say the Jedi are wrong and this is what the Force is. Yeah. There is no Force. There is only the thread. It's like New Coke. It's like, this isn't Coke. This isn't the Force. This is thread.
It's Crystal Pepsi.
Listen, this isn't Twitter. This is Threads.
Yeah.
Okay? All Rebels did was say the Jedi understand the Force in one way, but the Force is way bigger than just that one way. It goes throughout so many other elements of life. They don't try and encapsulate this.
Yes. And then, so the Jedi are on the planet in the beginning, because you kind of see them, and it is the four that May is hunting. They test the girls after that weird fucking ceremony where the girls are ascending, and they do that awful fucking chant.
They have the terrible chant.
It's so fucking stupid.
And I thought that was going to turn into something. It doesn't. It never turns into anything. Because nothing in the show ever actually develops into anything. They present something to you and you say, wow, this seems really important and like it's going to go somewhere. And then it never goes anywhere.
Yeah. And then we got to get to, so May and Osha go through the Jedi test. May lies, and so she doesn't pass because, you know, she outsmarted the Jedis. But Osha lies, but then the Jedis catch her, and she decides she wants to go with the Jedis. And May says to her, I will kill you. So May lights a book on fire and sets it down, which lights stone and steel into this blaze as if it was like old wood.
Every pipe is exploding. They're just rooms full of witches that are they're all dead. Now, none of them are injured in any way.
That's the part. That scene at the end where they're walking and there's just piles of them. And there's no burns.
No damage.
And the fire, if you think about this scene, the scene of all the fire, it looked like some extra walked around with a lighter and lit specific areas.
Oh, definitely.
There was no,
it didn't feel
carnage.
No. It didn't feel happenstance or crazed or like fire. It felt very controlled. But again, Soul is a Jedi master, and he's walking through all of these bodies. He must sense that they're all dead.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
But that's the thing I'm curious about.
Nothing makes sense in this world.
Are they going to show... But the Jedi would not kill the witches.
No.
But that's what... The only thing that would make that scene make sense.
The scene with Torben.
No, the scene where Soul is running through with Osha at the end, and you see all the dead witches... And they have no burns.
Yeah.
There's not really fire around them.
Yeah.
And also, May lit that fire 10 minutes before they were running around up top.
Yeah.
And the fire found a way to go through solid rock and steel to catch the whole fucking structure on fire. Which, the whole structure is bore out of a mountain.
Yeah.
And it is literally just stone and steel.
Yeah, there's nothing to burn here,
There's
guys.
nothing to fucking burn.
It's going to burn like an English castle.
It's going to burn like it's in space.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to burn like.
Yeah. But then this begins the question, is this the sin that makes Torben kill himself? Did the Jedis kill all these people for some reason?
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Or did something else happen?
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Because, but then, if we follow that track down, let's follow that track down. So May sets this book on fire and then goes someplace else. And then the Jedis come in and kill a bunch of Force users and set a bunch of fires and take one of the two children back. They don't tell any of the masters about the second child. They don't tell anybody about what happened on the planet. Nobody knows anything that's going on here. So that 16 years later, everybody is shocked at what's happening. And I'm just like, so... Is this like you guys covering your asses? Like things got out of hand and now you don't want to tell anybody that you killed a bunch of people? But that doesn't make any sense within a lot of realms.
Yeah.
And then you have the weird thing with May at the end where she falls and just appears by the tree from the beginning of the show. And you're just like,
She had a little bit of soot on her face.
Hang on a second. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Hang on a second. That doesn't, none of this makes any fucking sense. What are you fucking talking about? And again, they would be able to censor on the planet as the only other Force user on the entire fucking planet.
Yeah.
Guys, for fuck's sake.
And that's why I still stand by the fact that I firmly believe Anastasia is going to be this Sith Lord. That's the part that I think will make me want to break my TV. Because May is working for her, but she'll never know. Because they make it sound like May started training shortly after this all happened.
It seems like this master pulled her off the planet.
Yeah, but she still has never seen him or know who he is, but he's trained her for all this time.
And she could turn him in if she wanted to.
Oh my god, I hate it so much.
It really is that it's trashing canon and then has the gall to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to trash canon, at least give me something new and good that I can use. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't know I wanted this, but I'll take it. This is fine. I'll accept this.
And what this show is doing is it's making me truly concerned with the state of critics.
Yeah.
Because Rotten Tomatoes, and this has been brought up in a lot of things, the fan score on Rotten Tomatoes is appalling. It's like down to dog shit, which where it should be. But the critics is certified fresh. So what I'm thinking is
you can buy Rotten Tomatoes.
You have to be able to buy it, because even if you're not a Star Wars fan and you're really pushing for this type of messaging in a show, which is totally okay, it's not well done. It's not made well. It's not written well. It's not acted well. So it should not be. And it's the one thing that I think is giving the showrunners that chip on their shoulder, saying, well, the people who are criticizing it are just these toxic men that hate it,
fans,
because they can hold up the critic scores. And it's like, I wonder now then, are they paying these critics?
Are some of the critics on Rotten Tomatoes bots?
Because you cannot be somebody who has love and respect for cinema, media, whatever, and have watched it to the point where you are a legitimate critic and can watch this show and not see how bad it is just from a filmmaking perspective.
They keep on laying out these little breadcrumbs that are supposed to make up for all the sins that they've done. Yord has a yellow lightsaber. We haven't really seen a yellow lightsaber. There's a Wookiee Jedi.
Who you don't fucking see because he dies.
They have Plo Koon here.
Yeah.
None of this makes up for all of the sins that you have committed to get here. Both sins to Star Wars specifically and sins to filmmaking.
Yes.
Like, there are just terrible filmmaking decisions throughout all of this that just make no sense.
Yeah.
Decisions that are just mind-boggling why they would do it this way. And that's where that sense of entitlement comes from, to me, is the sense of, we're better than you, we know better than you, to the degree that we don't have to explain ourselves. Don't ask us to explain ourselves. Just accept that this is Star Wars now. And if you don't like it, then you need to deal with your issues with your mother. I have a great relationship with my mom.
I know, seriously. I love women. I was raised by women.
I have so many women in my life. I have more female friends than male friends. That's not the issue. The issue is that you made a bad show.
And I think that's the thing that's getting me frustrated, is I am 100% on board with these movements and this inclusion stuff. Like I said, I had the issues I had with Doctor Who in some of these earlier episodes. I see now that they were kind of setting this new version of the Doctor up. It's like they weren't completely well done episodes, but I can see the character building.
Yeah.
And now it makes sense.
You can see the through line.
You can see, exactly. But once again, even the episodes that I had issues with, the acting was still well done. And there were still snippets that you're like, okay, it is still kind of touching back to the lore, and they're not really changing things, but with this character, you can change things to an extent because the person changes themselves.
Well, I call it the "There You Are, Peter" from Hook.
Yes!
There you are, Peter.
There you are, Peter. Exactly. But it's like this, like you're saying, how do you expect to not get criticism when you take a beloved franchise, one of the most beloved franchises in history, and you change the structure of it?
The basic nature of it. The basic conceit of it. What do you think is going to happen? Like, this isn't, you didn't change Qui-Gon's lightsaber from green to gray.
Yeah.
That's not, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
We joke about Wookiees having to wear shirts now, but ultimately that's not what I'm most upset about. What I'm most upset about is that your Jedis are idiots who don't know how to use the Force, and apparently the Force isn't the Force anymore. And it's not the Force like how Dave Filoni says it's greater than what the Force is. And you're saying that it's not only not the Force, but it is this. That's bullshit! This is bullshit!
And the thing that irritates me about that is I used to have faith in Filoni. He's played a major part in some of these storylines. And I'm like...
Not on this. He has not been on any of the writing credits on any of the episodes.
But they even said he's been so on board with the ideas, though, behind it. Because he is running the Star Wars section of it. That they filmed a scene already for season 2 that got canceled. That lost Disney like tens of millions of dollars because they already filmed this thing and he was a part of it. So he still has his hands in this. And it's like, how? If you're this super fan That's like me writing a Star Trek show and saying, pull off Spock's ears. It was just a planet of cosplayers. Yeah. There's no such thing as Vulcans. They were cosplaying as Romulans. Yeah. And then it got away from them. It's like, no, dude. You're taking something that you supposedly created this love in your life, and you're completely fucking it up.
We know the answers to these questions.
Yes.
And now you're reopening and relitigating things that we already know the answers to. And you're telling us that we're assholes for being upset that you're trying to relitigate these things.
And for those listening, go back to when we first talked about the trailer to The Acolyte. I was so excited.
We were excited.
We were so excited for this series.
We were nervous but excited.
Yes.
We were optimistic, I think is the best way to put it.
Because Ahsoka wasn't great, but it wasn't awful.
It was a step better. It was a step towards something better.
Exactly.
And while the very end of the show got way away from them, that whole thing with Sabine being able to use the Force now.
Yeah, that was all.
It got so far away from what we wanted it to be.
Yes.
This is just its own thing. It's just like in the same way that it has decided that it doesn't need to pay attention to any of the rules. Fine. Then I'm not going to give you any of the credit Star Wars has.
Yeah.
How about that? How about them apples? You want to play that way? Fine. You're on your own. You are now in sword and sorcery fantasy land.
Yeah.
Show me that you can get to high fantasy.
Yeah.
Show me that you can make that jump, and I'll give you credit. I know you're not going to because you've shown me what you can do. We're halfway through this show.
Yeah. And honestly, to me, I put a lot of the blame on Kathleen Kennedy just because she even said, and it drives me nuts, they don't need to like follow George's vision. Where it's like, you don't have a career without George Lucas. Period. You don't have the career you have without being under the tutelage of George Lucas, because he gave you the opportunities with Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all this that helped you become this producer that you are. And then you're going to take his baby, the thing that you supposedly love, and you're going to shit on it.
Yeah.
And be like, why don't you like my shit? And it's like, dude, your career is based on the core of Star Wars and their fans.
And I'm not even saying that you have to follow George's vision, but you have to play in the sandbox. You can't decide that you're going to just dig up the whole sandbox and make a new sandbox. But you have to play in the sandbox.
And that's what I mean by the vision. Like, the vision is the Force. These are what Jedis are. That's that's like exactly what you're saying with the sandbox. Like, that's his vision of this universe. If you're going to now, mind you, if they wanted to take an original franchise like fucking what's his nuts did with Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder. And go to town.
Go to town. You want to do this on your own dime?
Yes.
Fucking go ahead. You want to have an entire story about how patriarchy is bad and all these other things? Go ahead. Dude, you just can't do it here.
No.
Because it doesn't fit here. Because it's antithetical to what we're doing.
Create your own fucking thing. And that's always been my complaint with these people that do things. It happens in millions of franchises. It happens with fucking Marvel where they're changing everything. Yeah. It's like, if you want to do something that completely changes the canon of something that's been around for fucking decades, do your own fucking thing then.
Yeah.
And then, kind of like what fucking Rings of Power's doing with the goddamn Lord of the Rings, it's like, dude, don't
stop changing things.
Stop changing
Stop thinking that you're smarter than the people that came up with this shit.
Yes.
You're not.
The only reason you are getting the opportunity to do this is because the fans who love this shit have shelled out their money and told this is what we want to see, not what you're fucking changing it to.
Yeah. For me, it comes down to when you have this many bad shits in the bowl.
Yes.
Who's minding the bowl?
Yes.
Who's been here the whole time? KK.
Yeah.
She's been here the whole time.
The whole time.
The whole time.
The whole time.
So it may not be all her fault, but she's got to take the lion's share of the blame. She's got to take the lion's share.
Yep.
Even if it's not all her fault, she's got to take most of the blame because she's running this shit.
Including the sequels.
Yeah. You get credit for everything that works.
Yes.
You also then have to take credit for everything that's bad. And if you have more bad than good, that's your own damn fault.
And you got to be humble enough to take the fucking blame.
Yeah.
Be like, you know what? I tried something. Hasn't worked out. I'm waiting for Kevin Feige to do that because Marvel's shit in the bed.
He needs to do it. He's on that exact same list.
But it's like, I now am terrified of anything or everything that Disney acquires.
Yeah.
Because they have found a way to completely ruin all of these things they've gotten their hands on.
Well, what they end up doing is they wait for something to get really, really big on its own laurels, on its own feet, and then they buy it. And then they produce a few things that kind of make the fans happy. But the longer they stick with it, the more they think they know more than anybody else in the room. And suddenly, this thing that everybody has loved for 40 years starts mutating and changing. And it's different than what we remember it being. And we're the ones that are wrong for not liking this new iteration of this thing that we love.
And I think you're the one that used this analogy. Disney now is the EA of films. Because they'll, just like EA did, they take these properties and they fucking destroy it.
Prince of Persia was a great game.
Yeah.
Until EA got their hands on it.
Until EA got a hold.
And then it was shit.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I don't have anything.
I don't have anything else.
This is just a fucking minefield of frustration and anger.
I'm going to continue watching the show because my son enjoys it. Because he's 9.
This is the thing, is that the uninformed and the young will love it. Because it has all the sheen of Star Wars.
Yes.
But anybody who knows what Star Wars is supposed to be is going to immediately see through it.
Yes.
And it's not like an Aldi's off-brand where, it's off-brand, but it's actually kind of better than the brand name. The Aldi's chicken strips are better than the Tyson chicken strips. This is like Stop and Shop where they had like 2 different forms of in-store brand. Yeah. One that was decent and one that was bad.
Yeah.
And the bad one was just really cheap.
It's made by actual chicken lips.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I gotta say, though, if it continues along this track, it might be worse than Obi-Wan.
Oh, it's on that track.
It's on the track.
The only thing that Obi-Wan has over this is that this doesn't have a direct line to the Holy Trilogy.
No.
That's
what I'm worried about.
Yeah, we can get there.
By showing what's his nuts in this last episode.
We can get there.
They're linking it to the prequels. They've already done that.
Even just the fact that we have now had someone come along and say, hey, you know what's cool? An Immaculate Conception. You know what's really cool? An Immaculate Conception of twins.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Yeah. Here's the thing. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We had this figured out. This was done. We had this. This was in the box. We were done with it. Yeah. And then you opened it up and said, no. I want to play with this one. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Why do you have to be like this? Anyway, it's a bad show.
Well, that was Nerdpod Generations, folks. Episode 143, right? I think
143.
Yeah. Episode 143. I'm exhausted. That went exactly the way I thought it would go.
I swear, if we wanted to, we could do an entire episode of just watch, play, read, just the 2 of us. Because we just went to the trailer park and then we dove right into Acolyte. We didn't do any watch, play, read on this one.
No, and we might still this week. I just have a bunch of stuff going on this week.
We got to figure out what our schedule is.
Got to try to find a way to get in there and do it. But anyways, we hope you enjoyed the show. The Rants are some of our favorite shows, so this is going to be up there with some of the Obi-Wan episodes. So I really look forward to getting feedback on this.
Any episode that ends with my legs being as sweaty as they are now.
I don't need to know that. That's okay. So, folks, this has been Nerdpod Generations, episode 143. Once again, go to the nerdpodgen.com to look up links to everything and anything we do. Al, who does our music and our logo? Our music is done by Brendan Williams and James Connolly. Our logo is by Kortney Howell. I am Alfred Judson. I'm Steve Taylor. Until next week, friends and enemies. We got to find something good to talk about. I can't just do Acolyte. I can't just do Acolyte. You know what? The good news is you're going to be gone for a little bit. Yeah. We're both going to be able to recover. And then we're going to have 3 episodes of Acolyte to cover. Oh, my God. Have a great week, friends and enemies. See you later, fun.